Rebalancing the economy is a favourite phrase of the government, but what does it actually mean, and are there any chances of it happening here?
Well, a new report has raised serious questions over whether the South West will see significant growth in the number of private sector jobs to make up for losses in the public sector. But it may be just a short-term problem. From Weymouth, here's our Dorset reporter Simon Clemerson.
Sarah Need knows all about rebalancing the economy. She's doing it. She recently left her post as a graphic designer at a local council, joining this signwriting and printing firm down the road. Tipping the scales in favour of jobs in the commercial world, as opposed to those paid out of taxes, is a key government aim to drive up growth. Sarah's job here isn't new, but her previous position wasn't refilled either, so she is still reducing the weight of the public sector.
Did you think, hey, I'm rebalancing the economy in what I'm doing?
Actually, I did, because I think someone said I saved someone else's job when I left.
But how many Sarahs will there be? The report says, don't get your hopes up. Not about the near future anyway. There's been a large-scale reduction in the number of people on the public payroll in the South West, with a drop from just over 550,000 jobs at the end of 2009 to 508,000 now. Meanwhile, the prospects for growth in the private sector are modest. There was some expansion in 2010, but many of the jobs were low-paid, temporary or part-time. The trend has now slowed. The gains don't make up for the losses. With the announcement this week that growth in the UK economy as a whole is still limited, it's hardly surprising that this report doesn't find a booming manufacturing sector in the South West creating lots of jobs and redressing that balance. But what's worrying the report's authors is the speed at which jobs in the public sector are being offloaded and not being replaced by jobs in the private sector.
And the private sector, of course, is feeling very uncertain with what's happening about Greece and the Eurozone and what's happening to the economy generally. And we also know that manufacturing, even when it grows, does not generate lots of jobs. Where are we going to find the private sector jobs that will replace the 50,000 plus jobs that we're losing in the public sector?
Not every town or village struggles in the same way, but the idea that businesses will be vastly increasing their workforce to compensate for a shrinking state is seriously challenged here. Dorset, in fact, does quite well, and there is hope for the long-term future. This report suggests rebalancing now is difficult, to say the least. Simon Clemerson, BBC Spotlight, Weymouth.
Well, to talk more about the implications of this, I'm joined by our political editor, Martin Oates, and this report really does make it clear how dependent this region is on public sector jobs.
Yes, it underlines it very starkly. It says that between 1999 and 2009, nearly 3/4 of all the new jobs were in the public sector, and that it's partly because of that that now the South West is seeing the biggest decline in public sector employment in the UK. Now, if the government sticks to this very strict austerity package that it's quite deliberately locked itself into until 2015 to 16, there will inevitably be more public sector job losses. Labour says that this report, with its gloomy projections for the private sector, is just another reason why the government should change its mind.
The government should be honest and say what they're doing at the moment isn't working. It's actually adding to the deficit because they're having to borrow more to pay out an unemployment benefit and other benefits attached to there being no growth in the economy at all. We're just flatlining. 0.5% over a year is simply not good enough.
So what's the government said in response?
Well, it's insisting it's sticking to its guns economically. Its economic policy is absolutely key to its programme of government, and it says indeed it would be foolish to abandon that approach. And one of our Conservative MPs today said he was sceptical about some of the report's findings.
I think this report is too pessimistic, actually, about the prospects of getting people who've just left the public sector into the private sector. People who've worked in the public sector, they've got good organisational skills very often. Quite often they deal with the public and they know how to manage projects. And I think they are very well suited to setting up their own businesses or going into the private sector, and I think many of them will.
Well, backing the right side of the economic argument will probably be absolutely vital for political reputations, electoral prospects. More importantly, of course, getting the economy back on its feet is vital for all of us.
OK, Martin, thanks very much indeed.